Hello there viewers and welcome to another edition of Formula One Talk, and in this edition we'll be going over the talking points of this year's British Grand Prix. And to begin with, before the Grand Prix weekend got underway, we had big news from the Australian Mark Webber, who will be retiring at the end of the season to move into Porsche supercars, or an equivalent series of racing. So that left a bit of speculation from now on, and questions being asked all over the paddock and in F1 by experts and pundits as to who would be replacing him at Red Bull with Sebastian Vettel for 2014 onwards. Many speculate that Lotus driver Kimi Räikkönen will be taking over the seat, as he is the most exciting prospect, but Red Bull have actually said on record that they would rather look internally first. That means either the two Toro Rosso drivers of Daniel Ricciardo and Jean-Eric Vergne, rather than somebody from another team to begin with. But those changes will take place next season, and we'll just have to see how Ricciardo and Vergne perform in the next few races to see if they are worthy of the number 2 spot. Anyway, on with the race, and pole sitter Lewis Hamilton got away fairly well, but his teammate Nico Rosberg had a terrible start, falling behind Sebastian Vettel in the first place. It all looked to be a fairly rhythmic Grand Prix with your usual DRS passes, but after, say, 10-15 laps or so, we started to see horrible tyre degradation. And, as you can see from the middle top picture, the first of 4 tyre blowouts, 4 tyre destructions of 4 tyres, 4 rear left tyres as well, started with Lewis Hamilton, which was a bit unfortunate for him. He was beginning to pull away from Vettel. He was well out of the DRS range of the Red Bull, and Hamilton really wanted this particular victory in front of his home fans. And it was sorry to see, because Lewis really did deserve to win this weekend, but fate deals him another blow, and he's yet to score his first victory for Mercedes. But as you can see from the bottom right picture, you can see the offending curb that is believed to have caused all of these tyre blowouts. More information on Formula1.com, and obviously in and around the news world of Formula 1. It's easy enough to search it. I'll post a couple of links in the description to take a look at what the BBC pundit Gary Anderson thought was causing the tyre blowouts. As you can see from the top right, Felipe Massa had a similar tyre blowout, as did Jean-Eric Vergne in the Toro Rosso, bottom left, and causing quite a dilemma for the teams. All of the race engineers asking their drivers to avoid going over the certain curb at turns 4 or turn 5, which were causing the tyre blowouts, they believe. Obviously, Pirelli have less than 7 days before the next race, which means they haven't got a lot of time to come up with a sort of autopsy or post-mortem on the tyre to explain what the heck happened to the tyres at Silverstone. But a good crowd saw some decent action. Quite a bit of debris was on the track after Vergne's specific blowout, which meant that the safety car came out and took up everyone, including Sebastian Vettel, who was in the lead, until he retired with drive failure. And you should have heard the crowd cheer. I distinctly remember when he was slowing down, the crowd went absolutely ballistic. So then we had Nico Rosberg in second place, and he was staying within 4 or 5 seconds of Vettel at the time. He took the lead, de facto lead, and Alonso was behind, doing rather well considering that he started in 10th, and things not going tremendously well for Ferrari at the moment, but Alonso's talent is bringing the car better points than it actually deserves at the moment, I personally think. But the whole crowd wanted one of two drivers to win this race. We knew Jenson Button wasn't going to win. We knew that Paul di Resta wasn't going to win due to some strange weight irregularity after qualifying, which is a shame because he qualified in 6th, but was disqualified from the results of qualifying, and he started from the pit lane. But the two drivers that the British crowd wanted to win was Lewis Hamilton, who was never going to win the race after the tyre blowout early on in the first third of the race. And the other one was future retiree Mark Webber of Red Bull, who was coming back after a very slow start. He was on the first 2 rows of the grid, I think, and he fell back to 14th by the end of the second corner. His start line gremlins coming into force again. But Mark stuck at it. A good pit strategy from Red Bull, coupled together with some fantastic driving. Webber always did love Silverstone, and then unfortunately this was his last race. The whole crowd, I believe, apart from Mercedes fans, wanted Webber to win this race rather than Rosberg. And he got past Alonso, and he was catching Rosberg at about half a second a lap, and he just ran out of laps, unfortunately. But that's basically my quick review of the Grand Prix. Now we will go on to the race results. First, Nico Rosberg, after he inherited the lead, just took things steady, took things calmly, and got the win. Webber second. As I say, the whole crowd, including myself who was watching at home on TV, really wanted the Australian to win this race. Fernando Alonso, a brilliant third place considering he started in 10th. Lewis Hamilton, 4th. Fantastic recovery drive considering the tyre gremlins. Raikkonen, 5th. Not really an outstanding race, and to be honest, not really an outstanding couple of races for Kimi. Just hasn't got the pace at the moment, and if I were Red Bull, I'd seriously think about not picking him up. It's not the fact that Raikkonen can't drive the car, he can't drive this car fast at the moment, and that's something that could be an asterisk against Raikkonen getting the Red Bull number 2 seat. Felipe Massa in 6th. Again, Felipe now seems to be falling into his usual get rid of him category. There's a few drivers that must be eyeing up his seat as well. Specifically, the guys like Paul di Resta, Nico Hülkenberg, drivers like that are ready for a move to a big team. And what bigger team is there than Ferrari? Okay, Red Bull have been the team over the last few seasons, but everyone wants to drive a Ferrari, especially in Formula 1. Adrian Sutil with 7th place. Bit of a quiet day for Adrian, but sort of needed that over the last couple of races, as if his contacts in the first couple of corners of the past few races. A nice quiet afternoon for him. Daniel Ricciardo with an 8th place finish this weekend. Not tremendously bad, but not tremendously brilliant. The Toro Rossos, I think, are the most improved team of the 12 out there. Sorry, the 11 teams out there at the moment, and you'll be hearing more about that in the next few weeks with my mid-season review, which is coming up. Paul di Resta 9th. Fantastic recovery drive from him, considering that he was pushed back after being disqualified from qualifying. Some sort of weight issue. I can't really go into the specific details because I don't actually know them. And Nico Hülkenberg in the Sauber with a 10th place finish. Not really much I can say about Hülkenberg. Sauber and Toro Rosso seem to have switched their speed from last year. You know, Sauber were getting podiums, and alright, Toro Rosso have yet to get a podium this year or last year, but the pace of the cars seems to have switched somewhat. On to the Drivers' Championship. And first is Vettel, who didn't score this weekend due to that DNF. He stays on 132. Alonso with a much needed 3rd place and 15 championship points. closes the gap. He's on 111. Raikkonen third on 98. Hamilton fourth on 89. Mark Webber fifth on 87. Rosberg sixth on 82. Massa seventh on 57. A long way back from the Mercedes pair. He's on 57, as I say. The rest are 8th, 36. Roman Grosjean 9th on 26. And Jenson Button on 25 points. On to the Constructors' Championship now, and Red Bull have 219. Mercedes second on 171. Ferrari third on 168. Lotus fourth on 124. Force India 59. McLaren on 37, Toro Rosso on 24 now, they're getting a good run of points, and Sauber, with that extra point, now move up to 6 points, with Williams, Marussia and Caterham yet to score. Well, what conclusions can we draw from this weekend at Silverstone? Well, Pirelli are under scrutiny, basically because of their tyre blowouts. I worry when things like this happen, especially at Silverstone, because Silverstone has never been Bernie Ecclestone's favourite track. The mere fact that the World Championship basically began after races at Brooklands, Brands Hatch, Silverstone, Donington, places like that. It's the home of motorsport. And, you know, countries like Italy disagree, like Monza and places like that, but the true home of the Formula One World Championship is actually in Britain. We gave birth to the sport, and I do worry when things like this happen. You never know if Ecclestone's going to suddenly say, no, the agreement we had till 2019 is void because your circuit broke the tyres, you know, and it's a little bit concerning considering a impish old man in his 80s says where we go racing, and we go racing at these exotic locations like Abu Dhabi and Bahrain and Singapore, and traditional tracks are getting left behind like San Marino. Spa's always asking for people to sign petitions to keep Spa going as a Formula One circuit, and it's just one of these occasions where I feel that this is the publicity that Silverstone didn't need. But it made the race a little bit more exciting, if not extremely dangerous. But as soon as the drivers were told to stay off the curbs at turns 4 and 5, we didn't have any more tyre blowouts. There were a grand total of 6 over the weekend. Pirelli have, as I say, less than 6 days now to look at the tyre situation. However, there is a young driver test coming up that the FIA have actually said, look, we need to address this situation and we can't have a lack of testing getting in the way here. So apparently the FIA have decided that all drivers in the World Championship are eligible to drive in this test. It's no longer called a young driver test, it's called a mid-season emergency test, so that the tyres can be all grades of tyres can be tested, not just soft, super soft, mediums. Every single set of tyres, I do believe, will be tested, and tested under, you know, I'm guessing full race conditions, so that the testing can be, the tyres can be given a green light, so to speak. However, I do believe that more durable tyres will be made by Pirelli after this debacle. I don't think we're going to see any races like this again for quite some time. The teams, yes, they wanted Pirelli to make tyres that made the drivers come in for 4 or 5 stops each, but we're going to have to see if they change their mind, especially for the end of this season, so that all drivers can finish every race on tyres rather than worry about are they going to explode or are they just going to stop working when they go over a piece of curb or a piece of tarmac that's slightly rougher. You know, it is a situation that needs addressing, and they are in the process of addressing it. But unfortunately, our next Grand Prix is next Sunday, so they can't address it tremendously quickly. Sebastian Vettel, with his first DNF of the season, couldn't come at a better time, I think, for the championship. Another first place finish with rivals Raikkonen and Alonso. Still not up to scratch. Alonso specifically saying that the Ferrari needs more pace. They were over a second behind, or close to a second behind, the Mercedes pole time of Hamilton. They were 7/10 behind Vettel in his qualification lap. And that sort of pace in qualifying isn't acceptable for championship chasing teams. Alonso must be getting frustrated at Ferrari, thinking that, you know, I've got this talent, I've got this car, and I can't do anything with it. His 2 race victories early on in the season must seem a long, long way away now. As for Raikkonen, well, I talked about it a little bit earlier on, but I'm guessing that Kimi is getting a little bit frustrated as well with regards to the fact that he's a quick driver. We know Kimi's a quick driver, former world champion himself, like Alonso, and is basically getting nowhere. A disappointing time for the Finn, and with Grosjean not finishing, they're not getting the mileage out of the car, at the very least, but also they're not getting the pace out of the car. We know the car's quick, but it seems as though where Lotus and Ferrari fall back is the development stages in this era of non-testing. And that's something that I think is going to change in the next couple of years, that we're eventually going to go testing again and get specific mileage out of these cars like we did in the Schumacher era. I can't actually see this testing ban staying in force too much longer. I've read articles on the internet over the last couple of months that say, well, this lack of testing is good for money, but it's not good for the sport. And another thing that they were complaining about, specifically Derek Warwick, who's in charge of Silverstone's driver club or whatever it is, was saying that the people paid lots of money to go and see these cars in practice and qualifying and things like that. And in one of the practice sessions, cars came out for installation laps to check if the cars were still working. Then they stayed in the garage for 90 minutes. And, you know, the sport needs a small overhaul, I think, as a whole. But as to how they do that, I'm not sure how they are going to combat the lack of competitiveness in either qualifying practice or it's all about saving money, but saving money is also leading to boring sessions either in qualifying or practice. You know, you see in the top 10 shootout in Q3, you're seeing drivers go out for 1, maybe 2 laps. Alright, there's only a 10-minute session to decide the top 10 shootout. Maybe it should be 15 minutes. And maybe we should be seeing cars come out, you know, like they used to. But there's always been strange aspects in how much a car is used. See, the reason they're doing it is because they have to use only 8 engines a season and something like 5 gearboxes a season. Now, yes, it saves money, but the spectacle is suffering because of it. These guys are not wanting to go out to save the cars, and they're also not wanting to go out to save a set of tyres for the race. Now, I'm all for close racing. I'm all for the pit stops that Pirelli have given in, and you know the aspects of the racing that these cost-saving measures have brought in. But you've got to look at it from a spectacle point of view. You don't want to race 20 races a year in front of empty stadiums and empty grandstands. You just do not want to see that, because people are saving their money and watching it on the TV at home, because it's a darn sight cheaper in this current economic climate. And something just needs to be done. They need to maybe give them qualifying tyres, and they use them. Then they make the decision about which tyres they're going to be immediately racing on. Maybe there needs to be one qualifying engine per year, and then maybe they change engines to a race engine that they've used, or it's something like that. What do you think? Do you think there should be something like qualifying tyres, qualifying engines that specifically should be used in practice and qualifying sessions that have nothing to do with the race whatsoever? They're barred. They're banned from being used in race conditions, and it's all something. What are your suggestions to make the sport great again? It's good, Formula One at the moment, and has been for the last 4 or 5 seasons. But it's not as great as it has been in the past. We're talking the Mansell era, the Senna era, the Prost era, and the beginnings of the Hill and Schumacher era. We're all messed up. The tyres are the main concern this season, and it's making things inadequate in everything but a quarter of the race or a third of the race. A third of every race is usually pretty good, unless it's a street circuit like Monaco or Singapore. But they've got to work out the gremlins. So I'm asking for your suggestions in this case. You've heard mine to spruce up qualifying and practice sessions, which a lot of people pay a lot of money to go and watch. You're paying inwards of, say, £150 to go and see these guys race, and they're not racing at full limit because they've got to save tyres and save cars. They've got to look after things, and that's what racing in F1 these days specifically seems to be all about. But anyway, that's basically my views on F1 as a whole at the moment. A little bit more to come in the next month or so with my half-season review. There's a big 3 or 4 week gap coming up, which you'll get that. But that's my review of the British Grand Prix. Please comment, rate, subscribe. Get more subscribers, then I may well start to read out scripts again. But for 20 to 50 views per video, as I say, I'm not going to write a script for that. Anyway, thank you very much for watching, as you do each and every time. And I'll see you after the German Grand Prix this time next week. See you then.